Hi, I'm Krista Hart. I'm an associate editor and marketing manager at Alfred Music, and I'm here to tell you about a few of the products for your classroom and choir that you're interested in. We're going to start with choirtivities. Let me share my screen with you. So, you know those days when you are not going to rehearse, those non-rehearsal days, gap days, whatever you want to call them. Sometimes it's the day after a concert. Sometimes it's those weird lame duck days between when you have your concert and when you go on break. Could be the end of the school year. Just anytime that you can't or don't want to rehearse. What do you do? What is something that's engaging and educational that you can do with your students? So that's the thinking behind this book called Choirtivities. This is activities, projects, and games that are all designed to build musicianship and SEL skills, leadership, teamwork, to craft a resonant experience when you are not rehearsing. And these activities range from games that you can play in a single class period to multi-day projects that involve the student working on their own to develop a student-led project. Time is just too precious not to fill every class period with something meaningful. So this puts some things at your fingertips to help you do that and avoid those sort of movie days that sometimes happen. This can also be used for those days when you need a substitute teacher. These are things that you can do with a music teacher substitute, or someone who's not a music substitute can do some of the things in this book. There's reproducible pages, there's, as I mentioned, games, and then fully thought out projects that you can do over several days. So that is Choirtivities. Here's a few sample pages. You can see the table of contents here, a couple of sample activities from the book. And you can see some of them are music related, some of them are more built around teamwork and building community. I have a little video here that I'll show you that gives you some more information.
Choirtivities, inspired ideas for non-rehearsal days. How do you plan for the day after a concert, the gap between a December performance and holiday break, the last week of the school year, or when lots of singers are absent? Time is too precious not to fill these periods with meaningful learning. This creative assortment of activities, projects, and games is designed to build student musicianship and social-emotional skills, while helping you make an intentional plan for every meeting. Craft a rich and resonant choral experience, even when you can't rehearse with Choirtivities.
Next up is the mindful music classroom. So if you're trying to incorporate consistent social emotional learning practices into your music classes and your ensembles, this is a resource to help you do that. And even if you're not calling it SEL or social emotional learning, there are great activities in here for dealing with common things that come up in a music classroom, like performance anxiety, giving and receiving compliments, gratitude, and just general good skills to have in life. So this is an entry point resource, and we're viewing SEL through a musical lens with this book and trying to identify and connect the most important competencies and skills with common music scenarios and concepts. And there are a lot of activities in here. Some things are building self-awareness, helping you become a better teammate, navigating social situations, and so much more. So there's ideas and reproducible worksheets in here, and you can use them just as they're written or as the inspiration to sort of customize and develop your own. Here are some sample pages from the Mindful Music Classroom. You see the table of contents here and the category that we're talking about. So mindfulness, reflection, goal setting, diversity, leadership, teamwork, and then various activities that go within each of those categories. And it's a variety of things. As I mentioned, some are written, some are interactive. all looking toward working toward these SEL competencies. Next is Fresh Beats. This is really a groundbreaking program. It's a resource for secondary general music classes, and it's designed to help teachers involve more students in their programs. So you're getting a full picture, a fuller picture of what music is for the students that are in front of you. The book is fully reproducible, and it includes information and resources to acquaint you with hip hop music and culture, as well as these really easy to use lessons. This curriculum is going to engage students and enhance their musical and critical thinking skills as they learn about the history of hip hop and its role in society. They're also going to listen to and critique pop music, write their own rap songs, learn to compose. There's drum beats that are included on the CD that comes with the book. So it's really an essential resource for teachers that want to provide a contemporary, high-quality music education that addresses a diversity of styles. Let's take a look at a couple of sample pages here. You see from the table of contents, you have the lesson, there are artist profiles, and then an artist summary, worksheet, evaluation, compare and contrast, and then the worksheet answer keys for each of these chapters. And I learned a lot going through this book and reading through and finding out about the history of hip hop, which I myself did not know. So it's a great resource, and you will probably find your kids helping to teach as you go through these and introducing them for sure to some people that they don't know about. But as you get into the more contemporary artists, they'll start recognizing those names and being able to tell you more about them. The Women of Western Music. This is a great way to balance your music history curriculum. As you already know, many of the composer resources that are used in general music classrooms have been solely focused on white men from the European tradition, the Western music tradition. So this is broadening the scope a bit and bringing in the music and lives of 18 women who were composers, teachers, performers, but focusing exclusively on them to sort of counterbalance what we already have available to us. So there are biographies, student assessments, and recordings for 18 important women like Clara Schumann, Amy Beach, Marian Anderson, Ethel Merman, Billie Holiday, and many more. You can see the list here, but I want to show you this video of the author, Anna Wentlet, describing the book.
It's a diverse representation that I'm presenting to my students, that they can all see themselves in the people that we're studying, that it's not just men, it's women, it's people of color. There's a broad spectrum of identities and roles within the world of music. I wanted to create a music history resource solely for women. Honestly, just because there aren't any right now, or there's very few. There's women featured here and there, like Hildegard von Bingen and Clara Schumann. Sometimes Fanny Mendelssohn makes it into a book, but they've been ignored because our music history resources have been telling the history of North America and Europe, right? That's what classical music is. It's the history of North America and Europe, but just focused in on the music aspect of that. And those societies, women have traditionally stayed at home. So the stories of the women and the roles that they played in music history weren't told. And I really felt like there was a hole there in the music ed resources available. So as I was writing the book, I was surprised by two things. First, that these women weren't just like token players in their field, that they made real contributions and they deserve to be known about. Like they are on equal footing to their male counterparts. We have like the first person of color to perform at the Metropolitan Opera, or the first solo recording of an instrument that was made by a woman. The first musical drama was written by a woman. Even Fanny Mendelssohn, there's a funny story I put in the book that she had to have a lot of her music published under her brother Felix's name just to get it out there in the world at that time. And Felix was in England meeting the Queen, and the Queen said, "Oh, such and such piece is my favorite of yours," and he had to fess up and admit that it was actually one his sister had written. Just it was had to be published under his name. So it was really fun to see all those accomplishments that I wasn't previously aware of, that I had been ignorant of. And then also to see where the women had supported each other, which was really interesting to me, how like the opera singer Marian Anderson, for instance, specifically performed the music of another woman of color composer, Florence Beatrice Price, who's in the book. So they supported each other's careers, which was neat to see. I would like for students to see how broad history is. And this isn't something that's happening in just music, right? All of our fields are kind of broadening their perspective off of that white male-centric viewpoint that we've had for a long, long time in the Western world. And I'd like them to see, that it wasn't a straight line, and that it wasn't just like Bach to Mozart to Beethoven, but that it was an organic process, and there were a lot of people involved at all levels. And to see that that's still happening today, and that there's still work to be done today. And the use of this book by Music Educator is a little tiny part of that, right? Or even if you don't use this book and you use other resources, but being part of the work of including all kinds of people in music and acknowledging that we haven't reached that point yet, right? For instance, women up until the 18th century could not play female roles in operas. The female roles were played by men. It wasn't until like the last 100 years that women could even audition to be part of professional orchestras. And of course, we've done a good job of increasing the percentage of women there, but it's still not equal. And there's still only one female conductor of a North American orchestra in Baltimore. That's it. There's just one. So I think there's a lot of work still to be done, of course. And I hope that we can get our students engaged in that work.
And next is another book also written by Anna Wentland. This is Music Mosaic, Exploring the Music of America Through Project-Based Learning. So each of the 15 lessons in here is intended to prompt risk-taking and the expression of artistic intent, and really make students leaders in their own learning. And I just think this book ought to be in every middle school general music curriculum. It's so cool. There's a wide variety of projects in here, from tracing the culture of your ancestor to forming ukulele jams and recording a rap. There's a soundtrack of my life project in there. Many of these projects include student research and culminate with a slide presentation. There's core music standards, teacher instructions, reproducible student sheets, and single point assessment rubrics for each project. So again, here is the table of contents for the projects. There's also a whole other section of one-day activities at the back of the book that can be used in relation to these projects. And here is a video from Anna to tell us more.
Music Mosaic is a middle school general music curriculum for grades 5 through 9 that is specifically focused on the development of American popular music. And it's meant to be student-centered and very much project-based. So for every one of the 15 units in the book, you're getting a day or two of introductory work where you set out a topic and explain the parameters of the project students will be working on. And then you're setting them free either individually with partners or in small groups to make decisions and come up with their final work together. The goal being that we're encouraging our students to take risks, to be vulnerable, and to really proactively create themselves, to make strong choices around their own identity. And that by having a student-centered project-based curriculum, you're leaving room for that kind of work to occur, that your students are really making choices according to their own artistic intent. And it starts with self-analysis. So this whole curriculum, it's going to start with a unit or two that ask questions like, why do I listen to the music that I do? What factors influenced the development of my own taste? And then for our society at large, how did we as a society come to define what's good or not? How does a song stand the test of time? Like, what are the factors that make a song last past just the year that it was released? And you're going to do some projects around that, like Soundtrack of My Life, where students make the soundtrack that represents who they are right now. And then we go back in time to the music that was being made in this land before Europeans arrived. So we'll look at Native American chant. Students will write their own. And then we start to slowly introduce the styles and the music performance methods, the instruments that were brought here by other cultures, whether that's immigrants or slaves who were brought here against their will. And then about halfway through the curriculum, we start to introduce the uniquely American music styles that developed here as a result of the organic combination of those cultures. So you're going to look at jazz, at musical theater, at rock, at hip hop, and slowly kind of work your way up to present time. By no means is this book going to be a complete representation of all of the many, many, many music styles that exist in the United States, but it's a starting point. So I've made this curriculum myself for my own student body, and I would encourage everyone to supplement with projects according to their unique student bodies, so that you're doing two things. You're making sure that your students are represented in the music that you're choosing for your classes, and that they see themselves in that music. And that then you're also introducing your students to diverse voices and diverse music styles beyond what they would otherwise experience in their regular lives.
Anna is such an amazing teacher. She's taught in a few different places in the United States, has been recently teaching at an English language school, American school in Malaysia, and is now going to be moving to Europe to teach in another English language school. And our last product today is Ready to Read Music, Sequential Lessons in Music Reading Readiness. This is a must-have for all music classrooms. It's really a perfect resource. If you're teaching your whole class of young musicians to understand this written language of music, this is a perfect book for you. If you need to review some core concepts with your intermediate students, this is a great go-to for that. Or if you are teaching older grades and you have new musicians coming in who need to kind of be brought up to speed, this is a great tool that you can use for that as well, for differentiation, getting everyone up on the same page. It's packed with 4 sequential units of 8 lessons each, all designed to prepare your students to read music. Most of the lessons are followed by a page of exercises that you can use for student assessment. And as a bonus, there are many pages in the back of the book of reproducible music symbols, which you can use for bulletin boards or flashcard learning. And you can see the table of contents here, really just hitting these basic concepts that are really foundational to learning to look at a piece of music and read it. And then you can see at the end, there actually is a piece of choral music in there that you can use to perform, but also to apply all of these things that you've learned in the book. And a certificate if you have completed all of the assignments in this book. This is a fully reproducible book. So that is what I had to share with you today. I hope that I've given you enough information to have a good understanding of what these products are. But if you do still have questions, please let us know, and we'd be happy to answer those in written form or come back and give another presentation with you. Please let us know if there's further questions. And thanks for your time today.